So today I'm here to talk about the 20-year anniversary of one of my personal favorite Grand Theft Auto games, and that is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The game was clearly heavily inspired by a lot of 80s, pop culture, especially like Miami Vice, Scarface. And what's crazy is I didn't even realize for the longest time that Ray Liotta is actually the person who voiced Tommy Vercetti. So what stands out about this Grand Theft Auto amongst the other ones, like Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first one I ever played, and I loved it so much too, of course. But with this one, this is like the first game I ever remember staying up all night to play. And it wasn't even on just one occasion. This happened on several occasions, and shout out to my friend Nathan Roth. I remember your 14th birthday. I can't remember who we borrowed the PlayStation 2 from. But yeah, it's just, when you're a teenager, your only source of alcohol is just way too much caffeine. So I remember just drinking Pepsi after Pepsi. Pepsi to me back in those days, and when I say back in those days, I mean August 2003. Soda, name brand soda was the equivalent of me drinking Patron Silver to this day. So, my friends and I, at my friend's birthday party, we would just, each take turns. Whoever died, you pass the controller along. And, we would always give people shit if they, weren't really trying to die in the game. It's we would give people shit, too, if it was shit they were just being boring and going around just oh, I'm just going to explore while playing this game. I'm actually not going to have fun and try to kill people. Because, a lot of people think, oh my god, how could you do that? But remember, it's just a video game. It's just a simulation. It's fake. You can be as crazy as you want in this game without any consies and quensies, otherwise known as consequences. But yeah, I remember even, when the game first came out, I remember having the flu. This was fall of my freshman year of high school. And so my dad was kind enough to, take me to the video store, and this was the middle of the week. So normally in the middle of the week, that's when, all the games were returned from the weekend. And so I remember just being in shock to see that every single copy of Vice City was in. So in my head, I'm just holy shit, this is it. I've discovered Jesus. This is my reason for living. So I remember, of course, I rented that game, and, despite having the flu and feeling I was gonna die, which obviously I didn't, I just ended up just spending a whole week in my room, resting. I was resting, making sure, but I was also playing a ton of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. One of the things that I remember enjoying the most in that game, sniping's the first thing that comes up. I remember having a lot of fun, finding different spots in the game, secret spots or even not so secret spots, and just, just seeing how close you can get that crosshair, how far away you can get with just, fucking with people. And when I say fucking with them, I mean killing them, clearly. I remember too, there was something with the crosshair. If you had the sniper rifle, each time you would shoot at the moon, it would make the moon increase in size, and then until it got back to its default size, I guess, if that's even a proper way to describe it. Yeah, it's funny because recently, for the first time, I started watching Miami Vice. The only way it's available is to just rent episodes on Amazon Prime. So I remember renting the first episode, and once I saw the pilot episode of Miami Vice, I couldn't get over how much Grand Theft Auto Vice City, just with the title Vice, clearly they stole a majority of the inspiration from that TV show, if anything more so than Scarface, I would say. Scarface to me is just a small increment of the game. Of course you become get involved with being a crazy drug dealer and everything, but I feel Vice, or Miami Vice, was the biggest inspiration behind this game. Now the soundtrack to this game, I think the soundtrack for, all the Grand Theft Auto games are phenomenal, but this one is by far my favorite. You have so many great radio stations. I remember just driving around and, mainly I think it's called the Sabri, or the Sabri Turbo on Vice City. I would always try to find that, and I would just love cranking it on V-Rock. V-Rock is how I, discovered that amazing song by Ozzy, Bark at the Moon. You have, Anthrax and Megadeth. So many great bands, and what I love is that even in the manual they had all the radio stations listed. So if you were wondering oh man, what song is this? Normally it would say it on the radio stations, but it was just a cool way, ancient internet way of discovering new artists through these games. And even the talk radio, like even recently, like VCPR with like Maurice Chavez, I remember actually listening to that whole thing on YouTube Premium just when I was at work, bored out of my mind, contemplating suicide. But so yeah, even like the talk radio is entertaining in this video game as well. But yeah, I would say Wave 103 and V-Rock were my favorite as a teenager. But nowadays when I play, I mean, like, I don't play this game very often anymore. Like, I play it every once in a while just, you know, just because it's kind of fun to just, like, fuck around for, like, 20, 30 minutes and just, you know, get massively stoned and groove to the vibe of that game. But I would say now it's more so, like, Fever 105, Emotion 98.3, I think it's called. And I actually have, like, what I love about discovering music in this game is it still happens now, because, you know, it's like I'll go like months or sometimes years without playing this game. I remember it was either like late December 2019 or early January 2020, and like I was currently laid off from a job at the time, so I was riding the unemployment train, which, you know, it wasn't too bad for a while. But anyways, I was laying down to go to sleep one night and I just could not sleep to save my life. You know, everyone has those nights where it's like you go to bed super exhausted, and then all of a sudden, as soon as you lay down, you can't sleep. So that night, I decided, you know what, fuck it. Like, I have no reason to even wake up tomorrow. Like, I don't. I had nothing going on. So I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna get up, load my bong, I'm gonna get super stoned, and I'm just gonna play some video games and see what happens. So I just, you know, put it on Vice today, because it's available on the PlayStation Store. You know, it's up-rendered currently in 1080p, which is nice. I feel like it's best to play on a CRT television, on a regular PS2, but anyways. So I'm just playing the game, I'm really stoned, and I'm just kind of like, you know, whatever, this is cool. And then I came across this instrumental track on Fever 105, and that song is called Summer Madness by Kool and the Gang. So it's just incidences like that, where it's like, I guess serendipity is a good way to describe it. You just never know when you're going to discover a cool song, or like come across like some really cool pop culture thing, like even years later, even if you played this game like when it first came out, and like even 20 years later, it's like I'm still getting surprised by certain artists. So that's, I think, one of the most impactful things about the game is just like the soundtrack overall, aside from the atmosphere. I remember one of the first times I played this game, one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that there's motorcycles, but there's like a variety of motorcycles. I mean, you have the dirt bike, you have like the PCJ 600, I think it's called, which is kind of like, what do they call it? Like the Ninja Rocket, otherwise known as like crotch rockets or whatever. And then they had like the Harley Davidson, like chopper type of bikes. And like, yeah, you had mopeds too, so. Yeah, you know, you didn't have that on Part 3. Not that Part 3 was bad, I mean, you still had some pretty cool cars in there, but I just felt like there was just more variety in the game overall when it came to, like, vehicles. And I remember, too, like, I used to love listening to the dialogue from just all the random, like, pedestrians. Like, particularly, like, the bums. I remember there was, like, a certain area I would go to, and I would love to just fuck with them. And, like, I remember one of them would say something like, "What, you got a big head, Dumbo? You're as clever as you're stupid." So just, you know, things like that. And then sometimes you would hear certain lines of dialogue that you would just never hear again. So it was always just kind of a surprise. Yeah, one of my favorite things to do in this game, besides the sniping, I always loved riding around the dirt bike. I think the dirt bike was one of my favorite vehicles, aside from the Infernus when it comes to cars. Because the dirt bike just made me think of, you know, like Terminator 2. Because at the time that this game came out, I was fucking obsessed with the Terminator franchise. And I mean, yeah, there was just so many cool jumps, and I remember just being so ecstatic to find like the police helicopter on, like, I can't remember what part of Vice City it's in. Or even when I played it like a couple of years ago, I was surprised that I still remembered pretty much where everything was after not playing the game for so long. One of my other favorite things to do in this game actually too was to terrorize the nightclub. And I know it looks bad on, you know, on paper, but it's just, you know, it's fake. It's not real, like I said before. And I remember, yeah, just taking a fucking flamethrower and just gousing everyone. Oh my god. So, I mean, satisfied. I mean, like, you know, the game is therapy, basically. Like, even if you're not playing the missions, because I never even beat the game until back in like 2013 when I had bought a PS2 again, because I was like, you know what, I never beat this game, I'm gonna finally do it. And I did, because I remember like when I was like 15 and played this all the time, I would like only do enough missions to unlock like the bridge to get to the other islands. Otherwise I just like did not give a shit about doing the missions. I just wanted to kill people and just ride around on motorcycles and dirt bikes and just snipe people. But even with, you know, so many modern games out today, and you know, you got Grand Theft Auto 5, the online play is really big nowadays. I still like to revisit Grand Theft Auto Vice City even 20 years after its release date. I mean, you can never beat that hilarious and just kind of like, just the overall novelty of like 80s pop culture. If you have a PlayStation, I highly recommend buying it on the PlayStation Store. I believe when it's not on sale, it's $14.99, but generally it's on sale for $7.99. I don't know for sure if it's even on the Xbox store, because I've never owned an Xbox because I wasn't raised to be a piece of shit snob, which is funny saying that because I actually want to get an Xbox. So they call me Contradict McGee. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button, and until next time, I'm gonna get fucked up, maybe even get fucked